There once was a man named Gold Roger who was king of the pirates. He had fame, power, and wealth beyond your wildest dreams. Before they hung him from the gallows, these were the final words he said.
Our perspective is yours for the taking, but you'll have to join us first. We left everything we debated at the Yonkō Table.
Ever since, pirates from all over the world set sail for the Grand Line, searching for the Yonkō Table, the table that will make their dreams come true.
Yo, folks. Welcome to the latest and the greatest from the Yonkō Table. That is the voice of Grandmaster Hoop here at the helm, and maybe I should say here at the saddle, because I'm on top of dragon, because we are riding back into Westeros from the continent of Essos to talk about House of the Dragon, the latest and greatest prequel from the hit HBO series Game of Thrones. House of the Dragon, not to be confused with the House of Dragons. No, this is House of the Dragon. With me, as always, is DrJaceAttorney to discuss House of the Dragon. DrJaceAttorney, are you happy to be talking about House of the Dragon?
What's the difference between House of the Dragon and House of Dragon?
I was saying it wrong up until its actual premiere. It's House of Dragon. House of the Dragon. Not House of Dragons.
I think everybody's getting it wrong. I think
it's House of the Dragon.
Okay, House of the Dragon. Okay, House
right,
of the Dragon.
But people have been saying the House of the Dragons, like House
plural?
of Dragons.
Yes, it's fine.
Right.
It's fine.
I think they did get the name wrong right up front. You know, I think they messed up the name. Yeah, they wrong step to start the series.
At one point, they just called it Dragon.
Well, I mean, I feel some people used to say a Game of Thrones, which is, technically the first book, but, versus Game of Thrones. The argument could be made that the name was a misstep. But Dr. Jace, are you here for House of the Dragon?
I am here for it after seeing the first episode. I will admit, going into it, I was my bar was really low, and I think that's a lot of this. I think that that's the state of a lot of Game of Thrones fans after the final season. It left a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths. It was not so good. Plot threads that were rushed and just overall bad. So me coming in here, I just was not looking forward to it in a way. I was kind of using this as the buffer between now and Rings of Power in September from Lord of the Rings. I was like, okay, this will satisfy my high fantasy high until Rings of Power.
Very fair. Rings of Power is right around the corner.
It is around the corner. I feel like after seeing the first episode, I feel like it's Game of Thrones proper again. We're back.
Very interesting.
Yes.
And we shall get into this because we are not alone. We got a full house here today to discuss full house of the Dragon.
Gross.
Stop. We got a full house here today to talk about the House of the Dragon. Let's hear which Supernovas and Admirals will be joining us today. All right, folks, let's get into it. Yes, as Dr. Jace so eloquently said, Game of Thrones. I think most fandom is in agreement that season 8 was very underwhelming, very we lost a lot of faith.
Would you say it was mid?
No,
was it mid? No, it was bad.
No.
Okay.
I have a as Grandmaster would say, it was vomitrocious.
Ooh, thank you for using my words. Yes.
When did that come about?
I use vomitrocious all the time.
Never on here. I can tell you that.
Whoa, boom. Thank you, Nino.
I think that's Nino's word now.
No, that is
no. That's Grandmaster's. That's a Grandmaster's word. He's been using it for years.
Thank you. And that is a great way to describe, I think, season 8. But with that said, it's been 3 years since the fateful season
3 years
of Game of Thrones. And House of Dragons is the first spinoff, which we may have more spinoffs in the future. But 3 years. Is that enough to rid you of the bitter taste left behind by season 8? Were y'all hyped for this prequel?
Well,
did you want it?
3 years. It just wasn't 3 years. It was like 3 years, a whole pandemic, a lockdown where I think a lot of people binged a lot of other TV shows that weren't Game of Thrones. So it feels like even longer than 3 years. It feels like 5 years. I think, fresh off of, the finale, season 8, I would not have been ready for this. I didn't want anything to do with this. I didn't want to touch Game of Thrones with a stick. And I don't even know. It feels like this was the perfect kind of gap in between for them to release this prequel series. It feels like, in a way, just enough time where it's like, you know what? There were things I liked about that show, despite how bad it ended.
It's funny that you say that, HooperTV, because you want to know something? As much as I didn't want to touch Game of Thrones, like, with like a stick, as you said, I think the ending left such a bad taste in my mouth that I went into more into the books. I haven't finished reading all 5 books, but it's fine because George R.R. Martin hasn't finished writing the 6th one. So I think, and when I dug more into it and dug more into like the lore and the story and the characters and the relationships, I was like, this is really great stuff. And they really they whiffed it. They it always kept me dreaming of what could have been. So, and then he released Fire and Blood, which this is like based on. So I'm glad that he's still interacting with this, like with an adaptation in some way, but to its effect, I think it's yet to be seen.
So,
yeah,
oh no, go ahead. What?
I'm just kind of on the fence of, it's not too soon, but it does feel like it's been enough time to kind of settle down and kind of, it's season 8 is like a real afterthought. Like, I don't think I had any kind of like, I don't know, like, I didn't care for this show, but I didn't think the show was going to be bad right off rip. I was like, D&D are not behind it. David Benioff and DB Wise, they're not behind this. They're nowhere involved in this project.
Hooray.
But also I was just like, am I Game of Thrones out? I don't know. I just came in with no expectations, which is fine, because I do think, I really didn't have any expectations. Because again, it's a prequel, and I don't know. I'm at this weird place as a Game of Thrones fans, because I too am trying to read the books, but I wasn't trying to dig into the lore as Nino was. But I've been reading Clash of Kings for like 7 years, which is based on season 2 is based on that.
Oh yeah, your bookmark is still on the same chapter.
I think 2 and 3. I think 2.
No,
and 3.
I resetted it. No, season 3 and 4 is book 3. I reset it because I was like, I need to go back, but I can probably say I was enough. Yeah, like you said earlier, I'm glad I sat through House of the Dragon and I enjoyed what I saw. But yeah, I think enough time has passed. I don't think people realize how much they really missed quality Game of Thrones.
You know what I think they also missed, though, is that it feels like in this kind of streaming era where we've been getting a lot of kind of different types of content, different types of TV shows, there's been like this question of like, what's the next Game of Thrones? Like, what's going to be the next juggernaut? And to be honest, I think there were like a couple contenders there where it was like, I think Westworld season 1, I think some highfalutin individuals would argue that Succession is it. But we really haven't had that show that we've all gathered around the television to watch kind of collectively like we did back in Game of Thrones. What was that, DoctahReeka?
I think the closest would maybe be Stranger Things, but it's
that would be
it
one.
Happens, and because it's so quick, it feels frequent.
Yeah.
Stranger Things
Very quick.
They release it all at once.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Is that a commentary on the Netflix format of binge watching?
Oh, it sure is, for
It
sure.
is.
there has always
yeah.
been a team weekly release. Everybody race to their TV on a Sunday at 9 p.m. and
Or
collectively watch and collectively respond. And, you know, Stranger Things, I would say, is probably the only thing up there that kind of has a wide audience as big as Game of Thrones. But it was like, if you don't watch all 10, like right off bat, you're going to fall behind and you're not going to be part of that conversation.
Yeah, and you know, this is a very big side tangent, but did you know in season 7 of Game of Thrones, when Arya goes to Winterfell and tries to see Sansa, you know who's one of the guards?
Who?
Eddie.
Who's
Eddie from Stranger Things.
Oh,
very.
right.
I think I did
Yeah.
hear that he wasn't.
Yeah, I was just rewatching it one day because I wanted to see Jon and Daenerys, the scene where they first meet, and then Arya like comes in.
Say something else.
Oh.
Interesting.
Yeah, and I just
Very
see him, and I was just like, oh wow, look what it is. Look
can
where
see
how
him.
far you've come.
Thank
That's
you,
fair.
Nino. Right.
I think.
Yeah,
I think
the thing about Stranger Things is like that tweet that went viral, I think today or yesterday, of like the apartment with like all the flashing lights.
Oh, the New
going
York
off at the
apartment.
same time.
Yes.
Yeah, like you can't get that with Stranger Things. I have friends who are like, yo, Stranger Things drops this day. Let's all like hang out over the weekend. We can all watch it together. But it's just like, it's not the same of like a Sunday night, 9 p.m. appointment television that Game of Thrones was. And I think despite everybody's bad taste that was left in the, like, you know, the final seasons, I think that kind of yearning for that kind of collective watching, I think brought people back. Like, even I think people were kind of low key about it too. It wasn't like, yo, Game of Thrones is back. It was like, I'm gonna tune in kind of low key, like.
Yeah.
I mean, House of Dragons had that uphill battle where every series kind of goes through this, where you conclude your, you know, franchise like with the final season or whatever, and it has a sense of finality to it. So a lot of people tend to drop their favorite franchises after that final bit. I know a good example of it is Nino's favorite series, Harry Potter. With Harry Potter, you get to the end of Harry Potter with the Deathly Hallows, and that was pretty much it for people. They were like, all right, I'm good, I'm done after this. So you get Fantastic Beasts, like what, 3-4 years later, people were kind of done. They just wanted to move on. It's like, I was here for the ride, and the ride is over. I don't need a prequel. Guilty. I don't watch it either.
I've watched one and I fell asleep through it, so I don't even know if that counts as a watch.
Yeah, with everything going wrong with that franchise and all of the things, I don't know if that's a great example.
It could be worse. They could have Ezra Miller as a main. Oh, wait a minute.
Yeah. That's serious.
It's riddled with problems. But yeah, so I think Game of Thrones there's a community, and whether we, you know, are very, you know, emphatic about it, or we are very, you know, closeted with it, they definitely came in full force last night. It did crash. I was part of the crash. It was reported that HBO Max did crash. However, it was the most viewed for a streaming and premiere. So as many
10
people,
10 million viewers.
Right, streaming and watching it live. Right, it's like the most. Right, it's crazy high.
That's
so
a large number.
It is a large number.
And you get like really big TV star power with Matt Smith.
You do.
Which
you do.
Yeah, people
especially over there in UK. They love him.
Probably wanted to come in and tune in and see what he was doing. So,
and he was doing.
Was he?
He was.
Yes.
He
was.
Out of eye candy, he's the eye candy for sure. Like, you know, but you know, we'll get into Daemon in a bit. Before we really deep dive this premiere episode of Game of Thrones, you know, there were talks of other prequels and other stories that the prequels could cover. And you know, House of the Dragon, it's the civil war between the Targaryens
The Blackfire Rebellion, yeah.
Was this the prequel you wanted? I mean, I don't know too much about the lore. Oh, go ahead, Dr. Jace.
Well, no, I just had a question. So what was the spinoff that was canceled that HBO
the one that they
saw?
shot.
The one that they shot and canceled. What was that one?
I think it was the Dunkin' Egg one. So like, I'm if it's still in the works, like, sorry that I got it wrong, whoever's listening, but Dunkin' Egg was like, so this is why Dunkin' Egg is like a short story that's in the same universe, but it takes place like right before the burning of Harrenhal, because Dunkin' Egg died in the burning of Harrenhal. And I'm getting chills just thinking about it because there's a very big thing. Like when we saw Harrenhal in the beginning of this episode, which we'll get to, but the burning of Harrenhal kind of starts Robert's Rebellion, or is one of the big main emphasis of Robert's Rebellion. And I felt like when they announced that right after season 8 came out, I was like, you had your chance to cover Robert's Rebellion in a flashback.
Okay.
Why are you announcing this? But I think this one was the one that was canceled. I think it's also the one that probably George R.R. Martin wanted to do the most, because his stories with Dunkin' Egg are very good, very character driven, but it crossed too much with the original series and would give too much away, because the original series didn't answer any of the big questions that the books presented of Robert's Rebellion, besides the elephant in the room.
I looked it up real quick because I thought it was that series too, the one that you were talking about that got canceled, but apparently it was the one that was set 1,000 years ago.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think it was
in the Age of Heroes in Westeros. So that was the one that got canned. I honestly thought it was the Robert's Rebellion one that got canned, but I guess that one still might be. I mean, I don't know. They greenlit a bunch of spinoffs after the final season. So I know this is the one that we're getting first, which is a House of the Dragon.
But I too was on the train of, I really wanted to see more of Robert's Rebellion. I really wanted to see kind of that story played out. And funny enough, young Ned Stark is going to be in the Lord of the Rings show. So that's funny how that.
He's a good actor. He's a good Northern actor. If he's not Northern, he could have fooled me.
Northern from where? You just said Northern. That could be anywhere.
Like Northern, like Northern England.
Oh, no, I don't know.
Atlantic.
I don't know if he was from Scotland or something. But yeah, I mean, I'm good with this. From what's presented, I guess I like the fact that it's a part of the mythos that I don't know, because again, I'm not too familiar with the lore. So it kind of reels you back in and makes you pay attention and really kind of have to chime in on what's really going on and be able to spot the things that make sense and what would lead to bigger things in the future. I think they're doing well so far, but I really hope they don't riddle the Game of Thrones franchise with spinoffs like they are currently doing with Star Wars, because I think that's very hit or miss. And for the most part, Star Wars has I believe one strong hit out of their spinoff series, but that's just me.
Yeah, Obi-Wan.
I mean, Book of Boba Fett. Who can?
Yeah, right. Yeah. Go ahead, DoctahReeka.
But I would have actually really liked. I mean, I'm fine with this. I was open to anything and didn't really have any expectations going into last night. I really would have loved the very start of like the Targaryens, because there's like, I think there's overlap with like Nymeria and the rise of the Targaryens, and then the Doom and all of this. Like, I thought that could have been really interesting, because there are a few different kind of story beats there that were of interest to me, but I was open either way, mainly because I was so disappointed by season 8. I just needed something new to enjoy, but within sort of the same type of universe, because I do like the Game of Thrones world. So
it kind of feels like this was like a bit of a redemption. I mean, we've seen one single episode, but in a way it felt like those like Robert's Rebellions or like the 1,000 Years Ago series, it felt like they could have done that back when they had like some clout, you know, back when they had like everybody was behind them. It was just like, yo, y'all can't do no wrong. Here's a blank check. Make whatever show you want. And it feels like after they botched season 7 and 8, I feel like you guys keep saying 8, like season 7, not good.
Season
started with
7
season
has
7.
some good.
It started.
It's the decline. Yes, started with 7, but 7 I think
It's
has some
harsh decline though. It is
7 has some great fan service. I'm just gonna say that.
That's not Game of Thrones.
But
I know it's not,
That's
but it was
not Game of
enough to
Thrones.
satisfy.
To season 8's credit, though, there was one good episode in season 8. One really great episode.
The battle. I mean, the night before.
Yeah.
That's
the
a
Night
good
of the
episode.
7 Kingdoms.
Yeah, it's not to say these seasons don't have, you know,
Moments.
some good moments. Yeah, some moments, but overall, overall overall they lost. I feel like they lost the essence of what Game of Thrones is, and it feels like through this one episode, this one feels like, yo, do you guys remember season 2 and 3 when people were sitting around a table just talking about what's good for the realm? You remember liking that, enjoying like dialogue and that sort of thing, and it feels like they're trying to get back to that, have people remember before maybe they like try to go buck wild with like, you know, 1,000 years before series. That's, you know, really going for it.
Yeah, and I think the genre has a lot to do with it too, because you Dr. J said this was high fantasy. This is not high fantasy. This is like dark fantasy.
This is not high fantasy?
No, just ignore the dragons. Ignore the dragons.
I wasn't ignoring the dragons. That's why I called it that.
But high fantasy to me feels like a lot bigger in scope. This is still very much a personal like journey with like characters have like trying to enact personal vendettas and their personal wills upon people. That's why I still call it dark fantasy. And there's rules in this world that need to be followed. High fantasy is like, oh my god, the Night King is about to reach out his hand and touch Jon. Oh no, the dragon came in and saved him and burned everything, even though it doesn't make sense. You know what I mean? That's to me high fantasy.
I can see the nuance in it. Yeah, that's fine.
I mean, whatever you want to call it, Game of Thrones is back. I think we're ready to go ahead and let's get into the nitty gritty of what actually happened here. So I know some people are not fans of what's it called? Exposition dumps. I think it was needed here to, again, just to set the
It kind of hurt me a little
timeline.
bit. I had to
Did it
rewind
hurt
a
you?
couple. It did, because I had to rewind a couple times.
It was needed. I didn't know which Targaryens these were.
I don't like exposition dumps.
It was quick. It was quick.
They
So
said House of Rhaegar Targaryen III, twice removed. Viserys. They just dropped names. All I saw were names.
It's okay. Jaehaerys Targaryen.
Jaehaerys the First.
Jaehaerys Targaryen.
He was the old guy, right? The
Yes,
old,
he is without an heir. Because his sons died and he was without an heir. He had no other children. So at this point, it must now go to, well, that's the big thing. They're trying to figure out the heir. So, and again, that's
not what happened.
That is what happened.
No, he had two of his eldest children. One was a woman and the other one was a man, Viserys. And they both had claims.
I looked this up. Those are not his children. Those are not his children.
Oh, they're not his children?
Those are not his children. DoctahReeka nods and approves.
He outlived them. He was so old, he outlived his children.
That's crazy. Okay, then I must have missed that.
Look at that.
Well,
another
I'm back
victim
on
to the exposition dump.
Well,
Yeah,
the other thing,
no exposition dump. Wow.
the other thing about the Targaryens is that the whole time they're giving this exposition, I'm like, wait a minute. If that's the son or that's the nephew, is it also the nephew and the son? Because they marry their sisters sometimes. And if is that the cousin who's also the sister, but also the aunt? I honestly, just coming in with that knowledge, I was already confused. So
you are correct. Both of his heirs died. So they had to go to the High Council to decide based off of the eldest of whoever would potentially be in line, but the eldest relatively related.
Right. And and here we go. Kind of, I feel this is kind of the overarching theme going on. The eldest was Rhaenys, and Rhaenys is, female. She's a woman. And then there was Viserys, who was younger. Those two are cousins. And I guess the idea was Rhaenys would be chosen being the eldest of the heirs. But because she was a woman, they chose Viserys. And
but who are they in relation to Jaehaerys?
they are,
they
I
his
think the
nephew and
nephew,
niece?
niece, or one of them's the
Oh,
cousin.
okay.
I know those two they're cousins to one another.
Okay.
I know that much.
Either way, they're not directly related to Jaehaerys. Like they're not his children. They're not.
No,
his
they're
children.
not his
Not
children.
children. I think
Okay.
further down the family tree.
Okay.
Yes,
Got it.
probably like another branch. Yeah, it's very. There's a lot of Targaryens. It is gonna be hard to keep up with who's who's not pulling double duty as a brother and a nephew and a mom and a sister. It's gonna get gross. It's just be ready.
It already got
Um,
gross. What do you mean?
Well, yeah, I feel it's gonna get grosser. But hey, in the name of the patriarchy, go Viserys the first, right? That's pretty much what's going on here. Funny enough, they put it to a vote. She lost 20-1. Everybody voted for Viserys because
Was it 20-1 vote?
Yes, there was one person who voted for
Her husband, right?
I guess, yeah. Lord.
They don't
Corlys.
reveal it. They don't reveal it.
I don't think they revealed it.
Okay, got it.
But that kind of that's kind of not our instigating moment. I guess that happens 9 years later. So
that lays the stage. So that
it lays the stage.
Yeah.
So 9 years now passed.
Well, they do the text on the screen where they say this happened.
that was
100
cool. I like that.
172.
Yeah.
Right.
Or however many. I was-
It'd be 180. No, it
Well,
was,
they pretty much say
172.
X amount of years before Daenerys. Before Daenerys is born, which is
But I like the
I was
way they
kinda
took
with it.
away
I
the
was like,
text though.
okay.
It was like
Yeah.
a paragraph, and it was like,
Yep.
oh, okay, I get it. But then they took away the parts where that was like filler, and they're like, this was before Daenerys.
before, just to
Well
put things in.
before.
Again, the Targaryens are like at the height of their power right now. I think that's a really cool aspect to explore because, the contradiction in the original
Right.
series, we get the Targaryens at the weakest of their
Right.
power. There's three at one time four actually. Four at one time in the span of the Game of Thrones original series. And now we get the stark contrast. Come on, these are good. These are
Enough.
good. Stark
No more.
contrast with them now at the height of the power. I think, as far as a prequel goes, this is a cool thing to focus on.
Well, they
just
throw
the-
dragons right at you.
They
that
do
next
throw
scene
dragons right.
It's dragons. Like when he's talking about the height of their power, the series starts with the Targaryens having 0 dragons. Game of Thrones started with them having 0 dragons. They're gone. It's like this mythical thing that nobody
but-
thinks exists anymore.
That's so crazy to me that Game of Thrones, they talked about it like dragons were just like, there hasn't been a dragon in how many years? And then I'm like, 172 years is not that long.
It's
like,
not
in
in Game of
their-
Thrones years. It's not
in-
that long.
In their mythos, when they're burning libraries and kingdoms and documents from like all these other places, I don't know. 172 years, that's a couple
Well,
generations.
I don't know when they say the last dragon was killed. I don't remember when they said the last one was killed because it might have been a shorter time period than 172 years.
Well,
you know?
they made it seem as if dragons were like legend. Like
Yeah.
those are
Yeah,
like little
right,
fairy
correct.
tale stories. I think that's cool where kind of like what HooperTV were saying where beginning of Game of Thrones, you have the Targaryens at their worst. And you as a viewer kind of don't believe the myth that they are claiming is true about them, that they can survive like walking in fire, that they used to ride dragons in the sky. And it's like, no, like there's no other fantasy creature in this world that I'm introduced to. Why should I believe these bozos that are claiming we rode atop dragons in the
I guess
years
that's
of yore?
That's a really good point too, because yes, like the magic and mysticism was kind of legend, kind of fairy tales to keep people up at night. And so we also are probably going to see more than just dragons here. We might see like more warging. We might see, dire wolves running about. Just a lot can really happen here,
I do not think we're going to see dire wolves there.
Here's the thing. I mean, I don't want to jump to the ending, but like it feels like nothing's off the table. We can talk about the ending, I guess, later. But when they start talking about certain things up north, I'm
come on, man, yeah.
I'm like, wow, like
beyond the wall, they're having a party with a bunch of magic.
Yeah, I don't know. Anything's on the table. I think after that moment, I was like, wow, they can go to some places.
Right. So yeah, we jumped 9 years and we now meet Rhaenyra, and she's atop her dragon, Syrax. Very nice little opening, again, trying to emphasize the fact this is well before we have dragons out the wazoo. Some people complained about the CGI of the dragons. Was that
Nope.
I think it was a little
I didn't notice
off
any.
in some. There was like a shot where this is later in the episode
With the other dragon, Caraxes.
Was that the one that lit the pyre on fire?
Oh no, that was Syrax.
Syrax. It looked a little weird when he blew the fire onto the whatever to light
the pyre.
The pyre, yeah. But other than that, nothing really stuck out aside from like a couple of scenes. I thought it was par for the course with Game of Thrones. With their CGI.
These might have been an improvement, I think, from the dragon scenes that we got in the past.
I think I'm just so used to mid-Marvel with their terrible CGI, but now I realize that this is HBO money we're dealing with. We're not going to have any of their mid and overworked deadlines, or maybe they do.
Some people still found stuff to complain though about these dragons. I thought the CGI was fine. I didn't have a problem.
I do like that. And I was listening to another podcast. Sorry, I was betraying y'all. About this episode, and something that they pointed out that I realized upon listening to that was that they did a lot more of like making the dragons very distinct. I know we
yes.
But the fact that one was like that goldish, yellowy, unless my TV was wrong, and then the other was like a red, black type situation. I really appreciate it. I thought that the original three we saw in the series felt distinct, but this was very much like these are all different types of dragons that go to different types of riders, etc. And I really appreciate it. The work that went into that. I imagine we'll see that some more.
Get better visual cues.
I like how you said types, because Syrax is kind of like almost like a pteranodon looking type dragon, almost. While that's what I was. Caraxes was very snake-like and very skinny and very slender. So not only are we gonna get what is it, 9? I think they said 9 dragons we're gonna see.
I think 9 this season.
Yeah,
9 this season, but
17 overall. I don't know.
Yeah, there's like a lot.
The 9 was how many we're gonna see in the season, or how many they have
in the season.
That's what I read.
In the season, we're gonna see 9 distinct dragons, and they have personality too, apparently. So I'm waiting.
One of them had like wings elsewhere. Like we'd actually have to like look it up, but apparently there's like they're different kind of appendages, or how the dragon, like you just pointed out, that one felt more snake-like and one was maybe slimmer. So I imagine we'll get to see some just like differences in terms of build too, which seems really exciting.
I think that's super exciting. I don't know, because again, it's who's going to be paired up with the dragon. So we got this pairing of Rhaenyra and Syrax. Of course, we're going to see Daemon and Caraxes later on, but there's some other Targaryens. Of course, we have Viserys now. Now he's the king. He's been king for 9 years, and he's run into a similar problem that Jaehaerys had. He has no male heir, and it's a little more deep.
Not from a lack of trying.
Not from a lack of trying, correct. So Rhaenyra is his firstborn. and his wife, Emma. And again, this is crazy, this kind of family tree. She is a daughter of an Aaron. For example, John Aaron, Robin of Aaron of the Vale, you know, the Moon Door.
The crazy boy.
An Aaron married a Targaryen. That's why she has the white hair. So
Okay.
it's still somewhat pure. But just wanted to throw that out there because I thought that was his sister. I thought that was Viserys' sister. It's not. I guess it's cooler. I mean, it's okay because they're cousins.
So
I
much
don't
better
know.
now.
I don't know.
Cousins where?
So
Oh, you're talking
Yes.
about Emma. Okay.
Yeah,
Viserys
Emma-
and Emma.
Oh.
yeah, Emma is his cousin, and what she had, I think she said 5 miscarries.
Insane.
She's been going through it.
Insane. Can you
Yes.
imagine the trauma? Jeez.
Yeah.
It's just that I don't know. That's just great. As soon as she started, because like it was like different types of miscarriages, right? That she went through. Like 2 of them were
Yeah, like
stillborns?
stillborn. Yeah.
Yeah.
Some didn't make it to, didn't make it all the way. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
Just
the
like,
whole
she kinda
catalog. I'm like, damn.
Yeah.
And then
yeah.
I don't think they specify, but not all of them were boys, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I don't know if they ever did. Which I mean, even if they did, you know, they
I mean, yeah, I
didn't
mean,
make it.
unfortunately, right? They didn't make
Right.
it, but you know, it's a lot of stress.
Right.
Takes a toll on her, you know.
And
and I,
to make it less stressful, Viserys is just, you know, saying it's a boy hosting an heir tournament. Not to put any more pressure on her. He's like completely jumping the gun.
I had a dream.
Was
I had
it
a
a-
dream.
It spoke to me in a dream.
He was riding the
yeah.
back of
But
a
that's so-
dragon.
I found that part so interesting, especially with his monologue at the end to Rhaenyra, about like dreams. Dreams are very important in the Game of Thrones
Dreams are, yeah.
universe. And I guess we'll get to it, but like his
Dream,
like
dream.
obsession with dreaming and like the dream that he had about getting a male heir and like getting a boy.
Oh,
like-
yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna like just be his undoing.
It might be all their undoings. Because you know, he's so worried about an heir that during our first council meeting, you know, with the hand of the king and the maester of coin and maester of this and maester of that, we're introduced to his high council. As HooperTV said, these, you know, a lot can happen in these dialogue scenes, these dialogue heavy scenes that if you don't pay attention to, it's probably going to come bite you in the ass later.
Yeah,
one that's-
These are the scenes that I live for in games.
Yeah, I know. I
Yeah.
love these scenes, right?
Like
I
you
felt
got to put your
back at
phone
home.
down. You got to listen to every word that
The
comes out of their mouth.
triarchy.
The
Yeah.
triarchy, right? There's the
Right.
triarchy of massing in Essos.
Yeah, when he started talking about things in Essos, I was like, oh, we're back. That's when I felt it. I was like,
Now hold
oh,
up.
they're
Now
doing it.
wait a minute. Now look who was telling him about the stuff going on in Essos. It was Lord Vorlis, the black man. All right, and you notice how they shrug him off, like, yeah.
Oh, is that a
it's what-
sign? Is
You didn't see that?
some-
One dude definitely mentioned something. He was like,
Well,
"Know your place, Lord Vorlis," or something.
Well,
that's
'cause
the vibe I got.
but I took that as like because his wife, right? He's married to the I forgot her name, the eldest.
Daenerys.
Oh, his wife
Daenerys.
his wife is
The queen who never was.
the one who
The queen that
she-
never was.
the one who lost, the one
Right.
who
Yeah.
yes,
Right.
yes.
So
yes.
I took that as he's trying to use whatever little power she has for like what title she may have to the throne and trying to speak through that to give his 2 cents on what he thinks should happen. And then they tell him, know your place because his wife is like at the bottom of the totem pole, according to them, in terms of succession.
Well, just
Yeah.
she's probably really. Did you get bitter vibes from her? We only got her in a couple of scenes.
I mean, she's probably
What?
tired of this.
I feel she's
She
plotting.
looks so
I-
tired.
I feel she's plotting. I feel.
So I
she's
didn't-
plotting.
Oh, okay.
I didn't
can
quite get anything from them yet, but what I thought was great, and this is what peak Game of Thrones was doing. This was happening in the boring episodes between, like, you know, when the big deaths happened. Is that the hand, I don't want to jump ahead, but when the hand throughout the episode,
Otto Hightower. Yes.
Yeah, Hightower.
Yes.
When he's like throughout the episode, seemingly like being like kind of like the smartest in the room, kind of caring for the king, kind of like, you know, just like seemingly to being like a well put together, thoughtful person. When he sends his daughter to comfort the king later in the episode, I was just
jumping ahead, but yes.
We are jumping ahead, but man, that's when it hit me. I was like, oh wow, we got the biggest schemer on the council right here. You can't take these words, their words for anything. That's when I was just like, this guy will stop at nothing to get what he wants. And that's when it was just like, this is it. This is Game of Thrones. You don't know what their true motivations are.
It was portrayed so well in the beginning because every High Council scene and every scene with Otto Hightower, he was very much, you know, you thought he was on the king's side.
He was kind of reserved, like he didn't.
Yeah, he was reserved. And it wasn't until literally when, I mean, we're jumping ahead. Gosh darn it.
Who did this?
HooperTV, but when Daemon pointed out that he's like, you're weak, brother. Like, you don't see these people trying to
you're jumping
manipulate
ahead.
you. Yeah.
Look what happened.
We'll double back.
I would say that Otto he's like a great value Tywin. Like I don't
Yes.
I don't think he's gonna be as clever, but there's certainly similarities.
Yeah.
Actually, you know
that phrase
what?
again.
I mean, Tywin definitely sent Cersei to Robert Baratheon's room, I'm pretty sure.
Right. That does
he tried to
seem
send
like
he tried to send her to
though.
Loras of
that part too. Yeah.
And he's like, you're gonna get a baby in you, and that's the end of that. And then he told Tyrion, you're gonna put a baby in Sansa, and that's how he won the North.
I mean, Tywin is the GOAT. I don't think this Otto Hightower, right? He seems a little too passive. He seems like he's got big ambitions, but his execution is not there. So I'm not buying what he's putting down, but everybody's scheming. I mean, this other dude, I think it was the Maester of Coin. He's over here making bets every second he can. So this dude thinks it's a joke.
Yeah.
No one in that room respects Viserys in any way.
Yeah.
Well, actually, you know, I think what's his name? The man with the white dreads.
I think Vorlis is
The one that's the husband?
Yes, the husband.
Okay.
Yeah.
The City Snake, I think he's called.
That's
So him.
Corlys Valerian. That's his name.
Oh, Corlys Valerian. I feel like Valerian sounds like a Targaryen. Is he a Targaryen?
Well, Valerian is in High Valerian. It's not spelled the same. It might be pronounced Valerian.
He has white hair. I just realized.
He does have white hair.
Is he from age?
He's not a Targaryen. He's
But his children
Valerian.
His
children are Targaryen in blood.
Would be considered okay.
They are Targaryen in blood.
So I feel like he was the only one that was actually respecting the king, because he's like, I'm respecting you enough to give you these issues that I'm having, and he was the only one. I just feel like he's the only one that was telling him like there is nothing like what do you call it? And it's funny to talk about the triarchy, because we see that in Game of Thrones. Because they're talking about Marine, Sevastopol, and the other city,
Karth.
Yeah, Karth. I think that's what they're talking about.
Well, I know he's talking about the cities in Essos, right.
So I think that's what we're talking about, and I'm just like, you better listen, because these you know, in a later down the line, they're going to become big problems for Westeros.
Well, that's what I'm saying. They definitely dropped that because it's like, hey, King, you're not listening. But I believe they're going to probably become a main like conflict moving forward in this season or series. But yeah, I guess that's kind of the writing, you know. Viserys is just hung up on his heir, and then
His
of course
his tournament.
right, but of course there's also the other issue of his brother
Daemon.
Daemon.
Which is interesting, because you guys mentioned like everybody scheming and nobody really has his back. it's like I almost felt like as we were talking this out, like it almost feels like out of everybody,
Damon had his back.
Damon had his back. I think
Yes,
Damon does
high-key.
want to be heir, but it feels like he did have his brother's back. In a weird way. Like, cause you're right. Later on, he tells him straight up, like, yo, Viserys, you spend all night playing with model toys. Like, you're weak. They know it. And they're
Oh
taking
man,
it.
he was playing with that model
does.
King's Landing.
He does. Oh my God, what's that hobby?
I don't know what you
Miniatures,
call
the
it.
You know what's
miniatures.
miniature figures when you paint them with the
Now we
magnifying
Yo,
know
glass?
he
who
was
made the
grieving at the
intro
end of the
to
episode.
I
Game
mean,
of
yes,
Thrones.
yes, but like that, he did not make that city like at that same
Yeah.
night. He took time.
Yes, but
before
now we
his
know
grief.
who made. Now we
Uh.
know who made the intro to Game of Thrones. It was Viserys.
Wow, you think that's what?
Wow, I didn't even think about
Hell
that.
no.
Oh,
no,
do you
that's
think?
too deep. There's no way.
Oh,
There's
also, I need-
layers.
I need
Okay.
to make an amendment for what I said. Apparently, the Triarchy is not Marine, Karth, and Sevastopol, so ignore that. Apparently, something completely different.
That's okay. In due time. Again, I'm not gonna try to look up the lore. I'm really gonna go into this blind. But I tell you what, on the topic of Daemon, he does seem to have his brother's back. Now, I will say, I'm making parallelisms between him and Scar, or whatever Hamlet's brother's name
Scar
was.
from Lion King.
Yes, because he's the prince. He's next in line if the king
Scar
doesn't
didn't
have an
care
heir.
about Mufasa.
Hamlet doesn't have a
I
brother.
know, but and we say this. However, when did we first meet Daemon? What is he doing?
Chopping off ducks.
He's
and-
sitting on the Iron Throne.
He's sitting on the Iron Throne.
and he says, "This bandit will be mine one day. Your father is not going to have a son."
You cannot
and he-
forget that, right? Thank
And
you.
he's
Actually,
saying that
was
to
it
his niece? Yeah.
the person with Vanera? Who was it that was with her when she was
Oh,
walking to the Iron
That's
Throne?
Alicent. That's that's
High Tower.
the Hand of the King's daughter.
He was the one that got into the room first, and he he just like, by the gods.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, you're talking about the
whoever
equivalent-
was with her right before
the
what was it,
the
Dr.
knight.
Yeah.
the night.
for-
Yeah,
I forget the title. He's the
this is
equivalent
your
to Sir.
job.
He's the equivalent to Sir Barristan, because Sir Barristan was the head of the King's Guard. There.
Yes.
Oh my
Okay,
god.
head of the King's Guard.
The
Got
head of
it.
the King's Guard.
Yes.
Yes,
He
Jesus.
saw Daemon, and he just had this shock, like he just almost like shat his pants. He couldn't believe it. Daemon was sitting on the Iron Throne. Who the hell does he think he is? I thought that was kind of neat.
Right. So he might have his brother's back. He might not. I feel there's no way they put him on that thing without having. He might not be, overtly ambitious, but he
Yeah,
might.
it feels like he wants at least in this moment, in this episode 1, things could. I mean, it feels like things are changing quickly, but it felt like he wanted heir and he wanted Hand of the King. It did not feel like he wanted he didn't want to take his brother's place. He just wanted to be the heir, is what I was
He
gathering.
says, "My brother can have his time, and then when it's my time, I'll just come in and sit on the Iron Throne."
Exactly.
That's what he's trying to do.
Right.
But I don't think there's any malice towards it. At least we don't
Yes.
get that throughout the episode.
what we do get though is just his instability. I mean, they talk about they tossed him around a bunch of positions in the High Council.
Who tossed him around? Hightower.
Hightower. Correct.
Hightower was like, he's a tyrant. He's a spendthrift, and now he's a what do you call it? He's a fascist, or whatever. Which he kind of is, but
He's definitely tough on crime. I'm gonna clean up
yeah.
these streets.
He's authoritarian.
That was not a good look for him. He said they will
Not a
know
good
these gold. They will know these gold cloaks.
Thief! Murderer.
Rapist.
Thief, hand, rapist,
My God.
murderer.
I
Yeah.
guess.
Uh-huh.
Was the situation that bad at King's Landing?
they said it was. They said that it was that he was just leaving it like the high. But it's a thing in Game of Thrones that there's a big thematic storytelling where the really rich people who make decisions, ultimately the peasants are the one who pay for it. So
I just feel they were just pointing at random people.
No, they committed the crimes to like, because it would be so weird. Like they pointed at a baker and they say thief.
But that's what I'm talking about. It didn't look like. How do they know? They hey.
Well,
who was it who stole from you? It was him. It wasn't any of that. It's
I thought they like kind of rounded up just like not a cell, but like a group of people that had committed crimes. They know that they were convicted.
They all just hang out together.
Nah.
No, not like they went down the street and they're like, this entire row of houses is full of criminals. I thought they had something where like they knew where the criminals were, and they're like, let's go to their houses, round them up. And
it felt like if you were like walking home from like a late night of studying at the library, and you turned the corner and there was one of those guys on their horses. You were getting beat with a stick. It did not feel like they were taking
there was no
inventory of
discretion.
who they were, what was going on. They were all just like mad with power, and they were taking anybody out. Maybe they're like, when they took it to an extreme, maybe they heard from somebody that like, that they did this, so they were gonna get this extra punishment. But it felt like bare minimum, you're getting beat with a stick. It felt like you were out that night.
It's very interesting because I'm looking at it in conversation with a previous decision by a character in Game of Thrones when Tyrion was hanged, and Bronn was like his head of security or whatever. Bronn does a very similar thing. He doesn't go to the extent that Daemon goes, but he kind of he's like, oh, we're going to be in a siege. He just rounded up all the known thieves and murderers and threw them in a cell and threw away the key. And then they're like, why did you do that? Why? And he's like, we're under siege. So, and then in this excuse, Daemon's kind of like, oh, there's a tournament with, the richest of the rich and the most noble houses of all of Westeros. Do you want them to get, raped or murdered or stolen from? The worst option of the three that I just mentioned.
Interesting justification. But he led with that. He did lead with that. It was met not with the wellest of reception. Is this where we get Daemon versus Otto, that little back and forth? I believe where
he mocks him.
Yeah, he mocks him. He talks about his wife, his just recently passed wife. Yeah, it was not nice. With the retort about how Daemon is sleeping around in the brothels and how he doesn't go to his wife wherever she is.
I think she's an Aaron.
It's like, she's happier that I'm not there. Oof.
Go ahead. Go again, DoctahReeka.
Oh.
No, he's saying Daemon's wife is in the Vale.
The Vale.
Oh, she's in the Vale. Okay, so an Aaron.
Interesting though is he's certainly like a wild card, Daemon I'm talking about, but he's also like, I think he genuinely cares about the family. Like you all have already brought up as far as like people being very underhanded. I know I got cut off by my Wi-Fi, but just folks who are all scheming that are on the council. And Daemon, yes, he's a wild card, but he's also been pretty upfront about the things that he's wanted, and the fact that he wants to be heir, and that he has this relationship with Rhaenyra.
Rhaenyra, yeah.
As far as like being there after, I think there's something else probably going on there. But
I had a question.
Think of what's happening right now, even after the death of Aemma, which we'll get to. I don't know if I pronounced that right. He was very much there at the funeral and is the one that is speaking to Rhaenyra. Both of them are speaking in Valyrian and all of this. So there's like all these like little seeds of the fact that he does genuinely care about the family. He's also just a wild card, so we don't know what we're going to get from him.
Yeah, and in that scene that you mentioned, where he like tries to, he's the one with the most level head during that funeral scene. Inside the episode said that was Matt Smith's idea to give that to his character. Matt Smith showing that he's a better
which
writer
part?
than,
What did he give to his character? The talking to Rhaenyra?
He says that he's like, where he's trying to like tell her like, hey, your father needs you right now. This is not important. Like your hangups about not being a son is not important. He needs you now more than ever. Like you need to just go be there for him.
That was Matt
And,
Smith
like,
that added that to the.
Yeah, Matt Smith was just like, why don't we add this in that scene?
Oh,
He
that's
didn't
what we found out
write
from
it
the
in
Teddy
High
episode.
Valyrian, did he?
He did do it in High Valyrian.
Oh, okay. So wow, good. I'm glad he learned the language for the role. That would have been awkward had he not known the language. But
he just starts babbling.
I mean, they really make these languages. I think
He
you
just
can
says
learn High
Dracarys back
Valyrian.
over and over
He
again.
took the Duolingo course.
He took the Duolingo. Did he also take Dothraki while he had time?
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, speaking of, him talking to Rhaenyra at the end of the episode, are we getting those vibes?
Yes.
From how he's talking to
Yes.
her?
Yes.
When he puts on the
Yes.
necklace, when he puts the necklace on
That
her,
sealed it. That
I was
sealed
like,
it.
oh no.
I was just like,
You don't
oh,
put it
no.
like you don't put it like that. You don't put it like that.
I won't share too deep into the lore, but what we're reading into is founded.
Look
Okay.
at that.
Where do Targaryens draw the line? Is it like you're...
They don't.
They don't.
They don't.
Oh, no, they do.
Is everybody
they say,
fair game? Is everybody
no,
fair?
No, they probably say mother and father. That's a no. But my sister, that's a different story.
But what if your father comes on to you? It has happened.
Okay, that
Wait, it
I
has
think,
happened?
I think there's a word
It
for
has
that.
happened.
I think
With
that's a word for that.
Targaryens?
I swear to God that has happened in
I
this.
think that's a word for that, and that's called rape. But
I don't mean comes on. I mean like they're willing.
Ugh, oof. Let's back out of that.
Targaryens are gross. There. Settled.
Okay,
Done.
sure.
A lot of
So
lines are crossed. A lot of lines are crossed.
again, it's a fun family to pick apart. I mean, not like fun, but it's like
what part of
Fun.
this do you find fun?
no, it's like
Grandmaster, what part of this do you
they're
find fun?
complex. They're complex. The
It's a
Starks, they're just
complicated
gonna
issue.
the Starks are
There's
just
no
gonna be
right
like,
or wrong.
listen, you're gonna go marry the Mormont girl, and you're gonna go marry the Cat Stark down the street. Ain't no
Look,
Starks meddling with Starks.
I'm
So-
calling it now that this series you'll see an even more rise in taboo porn videos on these illegal
Oh
sites.
God, no! See,
What
you
are you
took it too
doing?
far. No,
Been
no,
through
no,
that.
Uncle.
no more. No, the day
I don't
of
want
the
to see a
tournament.
horse, please.
We're on the day of the tournament now, and a lot transpires on this day.
Nice segue.
Yes.
This
thank you.
Aggressive.
tournament. There's a lot of testosterone here.
A lot of testosterone. Now, yes. I usually don't. I'm not able to watch the HBO like first looks. I don't know why they allow me to watch this one. Yes, DoctahReeka, like when we were having those Euphoria talks, I could never watch the first looks. I don't know why. I was able to see this one. I like how they said, as a premiere episode, they wanted to take it back to, the tournament, because that was kind of, the Game of Thrones action. But also I feel just the tournament was really like a good background setting for Game of Thrones. Like it brings all these characters together, and like the tournament is not even the high point of what actually happens on the day of the tournament. So I really like this tournament scene. I like seeing the different houses. I think we saw Baratheon.
Mm-hmm.
The
There's a lot of sigils. You saw the
Hightower.
So the cross.
the flower.
the cross. Who
The cross.
who's the cross?
Who's the
The
cross?
fuck boy.
The
The betrayer. The Lannister send their regards.
Oh, you
The
mean
Lannister.
no? That's the flavor.
I don't think that's the
Wait,
cross.
Greyjoy?
Yeah, he's crossed.
No,
Oh, no.
no, that's a flayed man. That's a
Yes,
flayed man.
on an X.
I'm looking at
No, it's not-
my emblem wallpaper, and I'm trying to piece
You're
it
talking about the
together.
Boltons, but that was
The
not
Boltons,
the
the Boltons.
I
That
felt
was-
like I saw the fish. I feel like I saw the
Tullys. Yeah, the
cross.
Tullys were there. There were
Like I
Tullys.
saw the house
Tullys.
or the cross. Excuse me.
The deer.
Oh yeah, the
Baratheon.
Baratheon deer.
The Baratheon. Yeah,
Baratheon.
Baratheon for sure.
Other one too.
Baratheon's got wrecked.
Oh, wait. There's two deers?
Well,
Oh, there's one
it's
deer.
the four-legged horned animal.
I mean,
Yeah,
it must
the-
be a deer, right?
Yeah, that's the
No, they-
that's the
Yeah,
Baratheon.
they named that there was a Baratheon there,
They did
Really?
name a Baratheon.
and
right.
he was married to a Targaryen. Or he was
I think there
betrothed
is
to
a Baratheon married to a Targaryen. I like the so Daemon is in the tournament and he gets bested by a masked dude, and when it's revealed who he is, he's of Dorne. He's Dornish.
He's a commoner. He's a commoner.
Important.
Right. Right.
Who is
Cole?
this commoner to
Cole.
Yeah, Cole.
Cole.
Who beats the heir prince.
Yo, I was worried for him. I thought Daemon was
I thought
about
he
to
was
do
gonna
something
kill
dirty. I mean, he already
Yeah.
He did do
tripped his
something
horse.
dirty.
He tripped his horse. That was not called for.
Oh, that was the same guy.
That's
No.
the same guy.
No,
Wait,
he
that was
did
a
it to
different
the
guy.
horse. That was a
The
different
one, the
could've
guy
sworn that
that
was the same.
fell from the horse getting busted. That's not the same one that
That is the
bested.
same guy.
No.
And then he got up and then they did the thing.
I don't think that's the same guy.
Oh,
Oh,
you're-
okay. Maybe
so
it's not the
there's-
same guy. You're right.
Yeah, there was a first guy he fought who he like just tripped the horse and beat,
It was-
and that
the
was
son.
that was the Hightower.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Daemon got knocked
asshole.
off by Cole.
Yeah,
And then
Come
he
out.
wanted to continue it on foot.
But hold up, he did knock down the Hightower's son. He's an
yeah,
asshole.
he did that to the sun.
Because Hightower
Yeah.
got him in the first I don't know, I guess the first clash, like he
Yeah.
messed him up, and then once they were, I guess I don't know what the term is, but like they were
Jousting.
reclashing again, they
Yeah.
rejousted. That's when he did it. That's when he did a thing to the horse.
And he looked right at Otto Hightower and he said, "Hey,
That's
did
all you
that."
got?
Yeah,
Is this
right.
all you got?
This
This your
is
son?
This is your. Is this your
Well,
son?
Does
is
he
this
get
your
the
son?
thing from? He gets the thing from his daughter.
He does get the
Oh, he
thing
does.
from his
Oof.
daughter. Yeah,
So now he says, "Not, I beat your son, and I'm."
I got your daughter's
presumably-
favor.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Yeah, it's this weird thing where I don't see him, as DrJaceAttorney was saying, like I don't see him as like this schemer plotting to like take the throne from his brother, but he's bit of an asshole, kind of mad with power, with the little power he had with the cops, and he's not perfect. He's definitely not a perfect. He's no Ned Stark, not even close.
Oh my gosh, far from it.
He's got a lot going on.
Is Ned Stark peak honor?
Yeah, for
Okay,
sure.
Oh,
I mean we saw where
really?
that got him. We saw where
That's the
where-
that got him.
standard. Yeah.
Yeah,
Maybe
okay.
More
Yeah.
honorable. Well, Jon Snow.
My man,
Johnson
my
was
You
high
man,
up
mean
there.
Aegon Targaryen?
my
No, we
man,
mean
Gross.
Jon Snow.
my man Ned Stark. I don't know, like pretty much ruined his relationship with his wife for his sister. Good guy. I don't know. Fell on the sword.
Yeah.
Literally.
No, the sword fell on him.
That's
Yeah.
that's a complicated tale right there. I thought Daemon was gonna stab Cole.
I
He
thought
did
so
it,
too.
surprisingly.
He
I-
got
Pull
but
out the knife.
I feel like
He
he has
did.
something. He has something planned for him. I think he's gonna do something still.
Yeah,
He's not gonna
again,
let that go. He's not gonna. let that
Well, I don't know, given the end of the episode, but before we even get to the end of the episode,
go at the same time.
well, we do. I like to say we did see Lord Corlys and not Rhaenyra, or Rhaenys. I forget what their conversation was, but I feel that conversation was important.
Ugh,
I mean, maybe
I
not, maybe
remember.
not. I don't remember either. I'm gonna go obviously back and watch. Aemma is in labor.
Mm.
I think last night in the Discord we found this scene to be polarizing, for sure. A lot happened here. He's inverted, the boy, so he's not coming out. It's got to be a C-section, or there's a method in I forget the name where all the
He made it
maesters come
seem
from.
like
in
mythical.
the Citadel.
And there's a method
Citadel.
from the Citadel. It will require your blessing, my lord.
Your grace.
Your grace.
Your
Your
grace.
grace.
Lord, you can't say Lord.
You're right. He's not a lord. He's your grace.
And when I was watching that scene, I didn't know that they said that. I thought he had to choose between one or the other. Like either like they both would go, or he could choose to save his wife over his child. I didn't know that it was implied that the wife was gonna die no matter what.
Yeah.
Right. That's how I read it. Oh, go ahead, DrReeka.
No, I was just gonna agree. That's how I
That's how I interpreted it. That it was either you lose them both or you can at least save your son.
I don't.
There was no regardless.
In both scenarios, Ava was not gonna win. She was not coming out of this alive. That's how I saw the scene. She was gonna die no matter what, and the Viserys got a very difficult decision to make, and
was it that difficult for him?
Well, that's the thing.
I think it was. I think it was difficult for him.
He cares very much about Aemma. We see this, like the way, and it's very interesting because we don't really see a lot of I don't know, untoxic relationships in Game of Thrones. I feel the way he approaches her and the way he talks to her, he listens to her, he respects her opinion. Like when she was in the bathtub and he came and checked on her, he touches her hand, he's kissing her hand. I don't know. I just feel he does care about her. Like there's a genuine, that's his wife. I think
to me, that's not the standard in Game of Thrones.
That is not the standard in Game of Thrones.
And I would say that despite his decision, and I think this ties into kind of like the times we're in right now where he made the decision for her rather than she made the decision.
Ooh. No, that's big. That's big. That's big.
Which is, I mean, when they wrote this, obviously they didn't know when it would come out, but he makes the decision for her. And so I don't want to say this as like a defense, but just kind of like laying out the facts. He makes the decision and he stays with her. You know what I mean? It's not like he says like, doctors do this. I'm gonna go. He
tries to comfort her through it.
I'm not gonna be sad in another room. I'll be right here. And once again,
it doesn't make the decision right, Nino.
No, I'm saying not an offense, but I think for him to stay there,
and she did object.
There's a level of care, maybe not enough, but there's something. There's something there.
It's complex.
It is complex, and that's what I appreciate. But unfortunately, the way that the show presented it, I'm going to bring this up, that when you see this guy getting his cock chopped off, they only show his butt. They don't show the actual, the snip, and then they show the aftermath. When they show this scene, all I'm going to remember of that scene, unfortunately, is like Aemma begging for him to stop, and then them cutting her open and then her screaming. That was so visual. Why did they have to do it like that? They could have done it in a different way and still got the same message across.
I admit I agree. They definitely didn't have to. It was very, and again, I said this last night, I was kind of eye-opening. I mean, I don't think that's how they perform it nowadays.
They don't.
No, they don't.
I know.
Do they do it like this still?
No, I know.
In mind too, though, is certainly something I was thinking about is the fact that while they don't perform it like that anymore, there's still, especially in the US, high rates of mother mortality, because especially for particular populations of which I am a part of, where care is still not really done to the fullest degree and empathy is not always provided, which is the highlight of what I saw in this scene is of what you've already named, that he made the choice. And regardless of him being by her bedside and holding her hand, part of the holding her hand was because everyone was holding her limbs and we're like, this is what is you.
Oh, there was a mix of that. Yeah.
Yeah. And so regardless of how he was attempting to provide some type of compassion, it meant nothing to me in that case, because it's still happening to her, and right. Nino begging, and so even that, I think there could have been, if there was more respect there, he would have at least informed her, and had a conversation and allowed her to be part of it. I don't think I expected it, knowing how the world works now, but especially in the way in which we've seen Game of Thrones treat women historically. So it's not like I was anticipating women to have some type of better choice making, which is sad considering this is a fantastical world with all these magical beasts, but there's still rampant misogyny. So yeah.
And is is it too much to say that maybe Game of Thrones, because with a lot of the women characters, the big thing they always battle is the misogyny, the patriarchy. And I feel, because Aemma and Rhaenyra had a conversation earlier in the episode, and I don't think we talked about it. The kind of, Rhaenyra wants to be a warrior. She says she'd rather be on the back of a dragon fighting. And then Aemma responds, our battle is, I think she said our battle is childbirth. Or
it was something else. The same thing.
Yeah. The battlefield. This is our battle. Oh yeah.
It was something like that. Yeah.
And then when I saw the inside the episode, and I guess this is where I have a couple of thoughts here, but this is where I'm thinking like you can definitely tell that men primarily wrote this scene because they were like talking about how they wanted, like they had the best intentions, but then they were like talking about like, oh, we wanted to tie it back into like that line where we show a woman being on a battlefield, with the tournament, and they're supposed to be linked, and I was just like, why would you?
I feel the link is now going to be Rhaenyra's story, because like we've been saying, Aemma didn't have a choice in the matter. She didn't have a choice in, how many times she would have to try to produce a boy. She didn't have a choice in this operation, and now, despite the fact that this is coming down from a man, we now have Rhaenyra in position of power to what I imagine is she's going to try to make some change, for women. But of course, in Game of Thrones fashion, that's going to be met with plenty of backlash. But I feel that's like the whole point. It's about what she's able to do and rise above, and what she's going to fight for is going to be a big part of her storyline.
Yeah, but here's I think here's the issue with this being a prequel. We know how this story ends. So we can tell that nothing happened. Absolutely. Because when you look at 172 or however long years from now, they probably treat women worse. I don't know. Or the same.
I guess I just mean in the realm of Targaryens. I don't really know how this is gonna leak into other houses and how they view and treat women.
Yeah. It's very interesting, that scene. Not to keep harping on it. I'm unsure how to feel about it. I do think some people might make the argument like great art is unflinching, doesn't look away, doesn't blink in the face of kind of really jarring stuff. And Game of Thrones in a lot of ways has tried doing that with its kind of realistic take on fantasy, just in terms of betrayal, at the Red Wedding, to kind of ancestral relationships, and kind of the darker, grimmer parts of Game of Thrones. And so there's a part of me thinks that there's a part of me, the business side of me, who's oh dude, they needed a big jarring moment to kind of kick off the return of Game of Thrones that would get people talking, both in both in a kind of yo, did you see that? That was too much kind of
a divisive way. They wanted fans to be divided, I feel.
Yeah.
I guess it worked.
Spark conversation.
Yeah. And then in terms of this is everything. You know what I mean? This moment is the starting point. You know what I mean? This is the loss of the son, the loss of the queen. Both impacted directly the decision that Viserys makes to kind of name the other daughter, the heir, and it's kind of everything about this series is going to be born from this moment. And when I think about kind of just in terms of storytelling, when you have such a pivotal moment like that everything that the rest of your plot and storylines will stem from, then you kind of really do need a very big, jarring, visceral moment. And no matter how you feel about it, they did that, so, and that's not me saying it's good. That's not me saying it's they could have done it cleaner, and like maybe less like gut wrenching, but I don't know. They did go for it.
You just said gut wrenching.
No.
Bad
I
joke.
feel like everybody was moving past it. I don't think anybody.
I know.
You highlighted it with the highlighter. Thank you.
Yeah, but I think this is one quick thing, and then we can move on, because I feel like we're I don't want us to get trapped in the cyclone. But this brings up another concern of mine besides the other concerns that I have, of caring for people who give birth. But this kind of falls in line with the weaknesses of Game of Thrones. So now I'm put in a position where this show is good because of the reasons why Game of Thrones was good, but it's also weak in the places that Game of Thrones was weak. So it puts me in a position where how can we transcend the original series and make this our own series, not just Game of Thrones Part 2. Let's rekindle the magic.
That's an interesting position, because the director of this episode, he's done many of the prior seasons. He's like done I saw he did The Watchers on the Wall. That's a big episode. He's done a good number of episodes. So, it's interesting. I know, I don't think the writing staff is the same. And I know the showrunner is a different guy, but if you're bringing in some of the same people, maybe they're saying, hey, recreate what you did, versus
that makes
do
so
better.
Much sense, because I think the real issue that I had with the scene, because you can still keep that scene in and like keep it as a commentary about like how men ain't shit, like period, but you could also like direct it in a different way. So I feel like the issue is the direction. So
yeah, we'll see moving forward if Game of Thrones can challenge themselves to be better than what they were before. Because
they won't.
We'll see.
Not a lot of faith.
No, I say that because they're reviewers or writers or critics, whomever, I believe had asked them about some of content we could potentially see in the future, and some stuff has still remained pretty similar in terms of treatment of women specifically. So I don't hold high hopes.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say I definitely don't have high hopes either. But maybe with enough, people speaking up, and who knows? Maybe if our voices could be heard. Listen to this podcast, Game of Thrones folks, please.
Time Warner, listen to our Warner Brothers Discovery, listen to our podcast.
I don't want to. I feel we're segueing out, but did anyone think the baby was gonna make it? Because the baby did come out crying.
There is that quick second.
No.
It was.
I thought it was
hold up.
To me, the tragedy in it is either A, it's not a son, because that's what I was thinking when he made the call that let's take the baby out, because they still didn't know if it was gonna be a boy or a girl. So I thought the tragedy in it was gonna be they deliver the baby, but it's not the heir that he needed, and now his wife is gone. So now I thought he was gonna do something completely heinous with the baby if it was a daughter, but since it was a son, I was thinking, no, that son, for this to be a tragedy, for him to question his decision, that baby had to go. And it did, because now you're left with a man that is completely distraught. He is defeated. He doesn't know how to move on. And then to HooperTV's point that he brought up earlier, you have the vultures coming in on him, trying to make a move. You got Hightower, of all the characters that I'm not gonna say I had hopes for, but like he seemed the most level-headed out of everyone earlier among that council. And he sends his daughter. He says, "Go put on your mother's dress." I think your mother has a dress.
Soft-spoken people. Notice how the one who was the most outspoken, the one with the white dreads, who like was making a fuss, they were like, "Shut up! You don't know anything." But the one who was soft-spoken and well-mannered, he was the one that had the bad intentions.
It's the little finger Varys, kind of all over again, you know?
Ooh, I don't know if they're that level. Yeah, those dudes are, you know, they're bad.
league.
This man just pimped his daughter.
I mean, yes, it's very
I don't
bad.
know.
And now I do not like Otto Hightower. I really
Like,
don't
you
like him.
shouldn't.
He said, wear one of your mother's dresses.
And
And he's like groomed his daughter to be so accepting of it. The daughter was
it was the way he delivered it. He just like, it was like casual conversation because he wasn't
it's
even
because
like,
nobody
he was
has
doing
nobody
something else. He wasn't even like looking at her when he said
really
it.
wasn't.
He was like,
and the way he said it too, it was
checkers or
like she
something.
should have had already known that was going to be
You
the
should
next
know.
move.
You should know that this is what
Right.
we're gonna do next. So go on, do it.
But it's
Go on,
also,
get it
I
over with.
think, from her perspective, you know, she thinks her father is actually friends with the king, but not only, you know, he's hand of the king, and then he drops that on her.
Notice
and-
how she barely questioned it.
No,
right?
yeah.
Because again, this is it's a patriarchy. It's very much a patriarchy.
Right.
It's very much know your place as a woman. You can either, you know, seduce men or birth children, and that's like kind of it.
Yeah,
And I think.
Go ahead, DrJaceAttorney.
I was just going to say what's I find interesting is just the juxtaposition between Alicent and Rhaenyra as like best friends who are very much trying to go in opposite directions, where is kind of following. I mean, it is the script she's been given as far as being socialized, but she's doing was expected, quotes around that, as like a highborn daughter versus Rhaenyra, who very much wants to rebel and have a different path in life and actually ascend to be the heiress. And I think it'll be an interesting dynamic to see, especially as like I think we have that time jump at some point, what their dynamic continues to be.
Did anybody get vibes from those two in the beginning?
Yes,
we forgot to mention it.
Yes, I don't know if I'm querifying everything.
It's that saddle line. It was that saddle line.
I was just like, oh, are you best friends or are you just gals being pals?
Yeah.
Best friends,
pals.
gals being pals.
Oh, that's
you know
why
what I
you
mean?
sent that meme. The SpongeBob.
Yeah,
like,
when her
oh, so
like
are they?
when she like laid down in her lap, I was like,
yeah,
like the romantic tree, like reading books together. Like, they know what
What sealed the deal for me was when she said, "I want nothing more than to go on my dragon with you and explore everything." I was like, that is queer subtext.
Yes,
right
a
there.
saddle for
Like,
two. Straddle up. Come on.
For sure. For sure.
I definitely got those
vibes.
No, just wanted to throw that out there because now we have this thing where I think Daemon was hitting on her at one point too, Alicent, and then obviously we talked about Daemon and Rhaenyra. But yeah, just
Daemon also has a wife.
Daemon and a whore.
A whole
terrible term to use. Game of Thrones term, not my own. She's very,
not you
very
calling
beautiful
someone a
woman.
hoe.
I liked her little petite.
Is that your
ass.
description
I
of
need
the
to stop.
character,
I need to
Grandma?
stop.
He takes the sex worker on a ride on the dragon.
I think her name is Misira.
Oh, I totally
has
forgot
a
this
name.
happened.
She does have a name.
I
I'm
totally
an
forgot this happened.
I'm part of the problem.
Her name. You are.
I thought I'm sorry. I think I forgot this happened because Damon's stroke game is weak. He was not hitting any angle.
Oh, he was done.
He was like,
yo, leave this man alone. He's got
leave him
a lot of
alone. You can't talk that big a game and then
you can't chop someone's dick off and then expect to like
He's
just
got-
be like a limp forward.
he's got
He was
a
like
lot on his
playing-
mind.
He was
She was talking
straight,
to him
like, playing
about
from Ed
it.
and Eddie. Come on,
God.
limp.
How about his ass though? Since we're on the topic of ass, Matt
was
Smith's
his ass?
ass. That was his ass.
Damon's ass?
That was his ass. Who's else?
That
Who
wasn't
else's ass?
that wasn't Hightower's ass or something?
What?
What are you talking about?
Damon's bare ass. How was it?
Oh,
I mean, do
it's
you want
there.
the honest answer or do you want like a podcast friendly
scale of
answer?
10.
It's a 10. You said it's a 10.
No, I said on a scale of 1 to 10.
Oh,
Okay.
Okay. I would give it a good 6.5.
Oh,
High towers?
low.
No, not high towers.
Oh,
Nobody's
Yo,
looking
you
at
don't see
Towers.
Hightower's ass.
I could have sworn we did.
No.
Okay, just Daemon, right?
All right,
Daemon.
a 6.5. You said 6.5.
6.5.
For Daemon.
All right, just clear the air. Okay,
No.
Damon's best
Aren't
look
you gonna
was
give your
with
score?
The dragon.
I didn't have a score. His ass is nice, I guess. It's perky. I don't know.
He's a great dragon.
Nice. No,
A dragon? Oh, who? His dragon?
Yeah, his dragon.
Oh, okay. Well, we got to get into these two final
actual
scenes,
dragon.
and then we're wrapping up. So we have the confrontation with Daemon and, Viserys. You know,
before the speech.
well, we do have a
Like-
high council meeting, right? Where clearly no one gives a damn about Viserys. He's like, I just lost my wife.
I love
and my
that blow up
son-
scene. I love
Yeah,
it.
no, it was good.
I
It was
loved it.
good. It was
Yeah.
needed. It was needed. Because you call him weak, and then he's finally, kind of.
He's standing up to him. So he's like,
You
I'm not
come
gonna
like
take-
crows to feast on the corpse of my son.
Wait, I love the facial expression he gave. And when he was like, do you think he's gonna murder me? And I was like, his facial expression just like completely took me. I was like, oh my God, he's really
Because like
in
he
it.
couldn't even believe that was the assumption that his own like closest advisors are taking of him. They view him as weak enough to be betrayed by his brother. So he's like, what? You guys view me as weak. I lost my son and my wife, and now I'm supposed to think that my brother is gonna stab me in the back? That was great. I just love the blow up scene. That was fantastic. It was needed.
No, definitely needed. That was a great character moment as far as, the beginning of the episode to that point.
Did you get like fisheye vibes from Daemon? He's just gotta looking through
Oh
the
my
people.
God, what the hell, man?
What's going on here?
That was kind of weird. I mean, not DoctahReeka sent that tweet this morning. I was like,
Yeah, I have a question. In Game of Thrones, that's one of the things that took me out. I was like, in the original Game of Thrones series, if you were spying and in a room full of people, you were most likely going to get caught, or you were going to be seen. And
I
then
thought that was
would
too
be-
easy, right?
That
Yeah.
was way too easy.
And he was just like outside the room, like,
Yeah, everybody else in the original Game of Thrones has like a series of spy networks that
And
filter the
informants.
information,
the little birds.
right?
There's his little birds.
But
Nope,
no,
he
this dude was just
stood
on the
behind
other
a
side
wall.
of a wall, hearing everything.
He's used it more than once.
And it's a wall with holes. How did I not see someone just standing?
It's
there?
dark. It's dark where he's at.
I
You can't see his hair.
It was, I will say, it was kind of took me out a little bit. I was like, dude, he's literally right there. Ain't none of y'all saw him walk in. Ain't none of y'all heard the door close when he snuck in through the secret door. I don't know, but we get the other confrontation between brothers. This one was kind of,
before that.
what am I missing now?
The brothel when he was at the
The
brothel,
brothel
or was
scene.
it the bar? Was he at a brothel or bar?
I think it's
No,
a broth.
A brothel.
They know that was a full-on orgy.
Oh,
Yeah.
where they, oh,
He says
where they
speech,
say-
speech.
Well,
Where
they're
they say-
intercut with each other. They're intercut with each other.
Right. It
Yes.
cuts off right before it tells you what that speech was.
and he said, I'm air again, basically.
Air
Yes.
for-
Air for a day. Ooh.
But,
But then, yeah. But
but
then
Whose butt?
what is the butt? Hooper
Whose
TV.
butt?
I actually heard this on another podcast, maybe the same one DoctahReeka was
At
listening
two? At two?
to.
We
He doesn't say it. We don't see him say it.
He does
And
not.
Game of Thrones, a show very much about letting the kind of camera and what's happening on screen speak for itself. That's kind of been Game of Thrones' whole thing. Never doing flashbacks for the longest time. They don't show it. You know what I mean? They just say he said this, and then they're like, people vouch for him, but they don't show it. And that was I don't know.
But what if he said it in like a morning way, you know? Like, because he looked like he was this.
You don't say that in a morning way.
But I'm just
the
like,
actual comment.
Like, no,
but he also doesn't deny it. He doesn't admit it or deny it.
He doesn't. He just says we all grieve in our own way.
Yeah, he says we all grieve in our own way, and
he could have been saying it like he could have been saying it like the air for a day, and then like just been like a drink, very somber, you know. But people could have misconstrued it to be like.
And yeah, emotions were high there because you know they had his friend being like, the prince wants to speak. You know, they're hyping him up. So
I'm just like wondering, why didn't they show it? You know what I mean?
I guess there's more beauty in not showing it.
We might not know until episode 10, you know, what actually went down in that brothel. But
I thought the way they edited the episode, it kind of led into that, where it's like, because it's interchanging between what's being shown at the brothel and what I don't remember the guy's name, but the one that reported what happened to Viserys.
Is it not Hightower?
I don't think it was. Was it Hightower?
It was Hightower.
Yeah, it was totally Hightower. Yeah, it was.
Okay.
Hightower.
Well,
do we trust Hightower?
Oh, okay.
True.
If it was Hightower, there's that question, because it's in it for him to throw him under
Correct.
the
Yeah,
bus.
you really can't trust Hightower.
It's not the first time that Game of Thrones has done this, because they did it in season 6 when they took you to the battle of, or when they took you to something Reed and Ned Stark versus
Ned Stark?
Yes, Ned Stark in season 6 versus it was a flashback versus Arthur Dayne.
Yes.
And then they go up to the tower. You hear a woman screaming, and then he's like, "That's enough." And you know, they were like,
the story
of
of right. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
one time.
Yeah.
The one time they used a flashback.
Well, they used flashbacks a couple times that season, but yeah.
A couple times, yeah.
But I mean, they were more like story points than flashbacks, where it was actual, like, you know, Bran was warging back then.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's not even technically a flashback. It's just Bran looking back. But I don't know. I'm not saying Daemon didn't say it. I'm not saying he said it. I'm just saying that was an interesting creative decision for them.
I guess that makes the confrontation more interesting, because as well, when you don't have Daemon admitting or not admitting, and you're just letting Viserys kind of run his mouth,
yes,
it's kind of like now we understand what now Viserys thinks of Daemon regardless.
Yes, yes, and this is what I'm talking about when we talk about like great Game of Thrones, like when it's like you hear something or you watch a later episode that like enlightens like something that happened earlier, and then you can like listen or read or watch the dialogue. You can just enjoy these scenes in like a different way and kind of pay closer attention to the dialogue and like what's being said and what's not being said. You clearly have that now. What was that conversation after about? Like, you can go back and watch that scene. What if Daemon didn't say it? What is he saying? You know what I mean? In that conversation. And that's when Game of Thrones is at its best, when it's like you want to go back and watch shows and be like, let me watch that again and pay a little closer attention to this, or view things from this perspective in a different way. Kind of lost that in 7 and 8. I'm sorry for taking shots at 7 or 8, but
I don't think there's any prime
defenders. Wait, that's also true in the same scenes that I was talking about, because in season 6, we only hear his name is, and then it cuts off, and then it cuts to John's face, but they never confirm anything until later.
Right.
So this is I'm gonna give you credit, HooperTV. That is a very interesting choice, and now I'm on the bandwagon that maybe he did not say what we think he said. So
we don't know.
You made me a believer.
He doesn't deny or admit it.
Got pissed. You know what I mean?
It's just very. I'll go ahead.
No, I was gonna say he either whether he said it or not. Once he's accused of it, he just uses it as an opportunity to tell his brother like why. If he did say it, why I had every reason to say it. And then he goes into how you've been too focused on an heir when you got one right here, baby. Make me the hand of the king. What are you doing?
And then, but he's also saying it from a point of view like they are not blood. Like only
These are not
you can
your
only
friends.
trust me. Yeah,
Right.
and you know that relationship kind of mirrors the Stark relationship because every time the Starks trust somebody else that aren't a Stark, they usually end up getting betrayed. And then
yeah, very true. Yeah.
so then it's kind of like you can only trust us. You can only trust me, your brother, your blood. I want to take care of you. I want to make sure that we can do everything together.
But you let
And-
all this power and let all these vultures kind of lay nest in your crown and pick at your brain. So
Yeah,
And
I
I-
think he's gonna really regret losing Daemon.
I mean,
He kicked
they
him out.
they got what they want. The council got what they wanted. Daemon's back to not Harrenhal, right?
No, he's back to the
Vale.
Vale. Or
Okay, they're sending him back to the Vale.
Brownstone.
he's
in
going
Brownstone.
back to his wife with his other woman who has a name.
Wait, so he left with both of them?
Yeah, he
Well,
left
his-
on the dragon.
His
But
wife's
his
at
wife's
the
already
Vale.
in the Vale. She's
His
already
wife is
there.
in the Vale.
Oh,
yes.
okay.
I think it's Brownstone that he's
He's
in.
at Aaron.
Yes, his wife is in Aaron. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then
I think-
the woman that he's bringing on the dragon is
The sex
brothel-
worker.
The sex worker. Okay.
Mysaria.
Oh, it's
Mysaria.
Runestone. It's Runestone, but that is in the Vale.
Okay,
So
Runestone's in the Vale. So Daemon is now out. The council is a little happy.
The council
Now-
pointed out too, and that he has a 3,000 person army who swears complete loyalty to him. In
Ah,
is it the Night Watch? The
The City
the
Watch.
City
the
Watch.
City Watch.
Oh, it's
The
not.
City
oh,
Watch.
the City Watch. Okay.
No, the Night Watch, of course, is
Right.
It's on the wall.
The wall.
But this
Yeah.
is some foreshadowing for something that happens because they use gold cloaks.
they do.
And this is like the progenitor of the Golden Company. We don't see a lot of them in the original series,
Ooh.
but they're a very big thing in the books.
Oh, time out.
Sure.
The Golden Company, like
That Cersei
from
hired.
the Mercs.
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah,
Oh, I didn't
because-
know this would lead to that. Thanks
Yes.
for spoiling.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We'll
It
see.
just- it's-
Predictions,
They had gold
predictions.
cloaks. You should have known.
It could happen.
That sounded like a confirmation.
It could happen.
It's just
Actually,
interesting to
you never
see-
know. You never know, because that's kind of what Game of Thrones did with its adaptations of the books.
True.
They took some things and they went with it, and other ones they're like, no, we
Because the
We'll
head
do our
writers
own.
are stupid.
well, not,
were
not
pretty
all of
good
them were
early
bad
on.
decisions.
They were good up until like season 6.
Yeah, they fell off season 7.
Yeah.
But
All right. So Daemon's out, but I think Viserys now has come to a realization, and he meets Rhaenyra in the Dragon Keep. I believe that's what it was. And he's like, "Hey, I was wrong about you. I should have treated you as my firstborn versus, like just my daughter. Like I should have held you in the highest regard. And I'm going to name you heir to the
How
Iron
long
Throne."
Council
this
wasn't
last?
expecting that.
How long will
No.
this last? How
They
long will
mentioned
this
it. They
last?
mentioned it. The council mentioned it.
They thought that
Oh, man.
that he would anoint
Didn't
Viserys.
Hightower say it? It's like I think one of them said it, and then they were like, "Wait a second,
A
no
Yeah.
woman.
Hightower did
Oh.
say, but Hightower is also trying to plot his daughter with the king. I'm calling.
You think he's gonna
What's the-
use the daughter to ship
Yes,
the
and
two
then-
together?
and
Oh.
then what do you call
Oh
it?
my
The
god!
daughter's gonna give him maybe a
Wow.
boy, and then what do you call it if they end up being together? And then he's gonna be like, "Hey, remember when I made you heir? You dirty woman. I have a son now." So I think that's exactly what's gonna happen.
Ooh, could be interesting.
It's
Could
a
be interesting.
game.
But
It's a
Yeah, it could be
game.
interesting.
Almost like
Rhaenyra,
a Game of Thrones.
she never wanted the throne, but now she's thrown into this. She's thrown into the throne. And this shall make a very interesting season because, again,
Was this not how the first season of Game of Thrones was like?
no the first season of Game of Thrones was
terms
the
of
mystery.
someone- But no,
The
like
myst-
I mean in the sense that someone who had no business in their minds getting onto the throne all of a sudden gets the responsibilities of that thrown onto them. Because
Well, you
isn't
could
that what
get
happens
the
to Ned
whole,
Stark?
Ned Stark
Game
is
of Thrones?
given highest responsibility of the realm.
He didn't want that.
No, he did not want that.
did
Correct.
not want
Rhaenyra, very similar, but
Yeah.
the difference between this is, you know, in the original Game of Thrones, there was a lot of plotting as far as, you know, anyone could lay claim to the throne. You know, here it is Targaryens are the only ones who really can lay claim to the throne. Like, you know, that's their throne. So I guess, yeah, you can make the parallel. And now this will play out very interestingly as to whether it plays out just like Game of Thrones, where it's, you know, a lot of conniving and backstabbing, or will this be cooler because it's a family affair? You know,
Did you catch that scene? Because you mentioned backstabbing. When he sent Daemon away, he nicked himself on the throne
I did notice
and he started
nicked himself.
bleeding.
Oh
Yeah.
no, are we gonna?
I didn't
have
know what to take of
another-
it. I didn't know what to make of it.
You can take a lot from it. There's a lot
We
you
should
can take.
probably point out. We should probably point out that he's got a weird rash on his back. Some weird
Dragon
shit.
scale?
Yeah.
Is that dragon
No.
scale?
That's not
That
dragon
cannot
scale.
be dragon
no,
scale.
it's
So
too
So what is that?
moist.
I don't know if he's long for this world. They said it's like growing. It's not shrinking too.
Yeah,
Right.
It's like a
wrong.
tumor. It's like a tumor.
All right,
Yeah.
he's on
A
a time
leaking
clock
tumor.
then.
Yeah.
Right.
But I just hate. I feel like I can't trust these adaptations to use the throne as like imagery, like for like a metaphor. I feel like once Drogon burnt down the chair in a metaphorical and literal sense, I was like, nope, can't do this. The blood, I was like, I'm still shocked by the previous show that when I saw the blood, I was like, oh, so now the chair is nicking him and it shows that he has a responsibility that's hurting him. I'm like, get over yourself, please. You're Game of Thrones.
Or maybe it was like your direct blood heir. Ooh. You need to choose your direct blood heir.
The two big kind of connections to the original series.
Wait, say that again.
The two big connections to the original series.
Right.
In the, well, I don't have the background anymore because I'm on my phone now, but the discussion after she found out that she would, or as she was finding out that she would be heir.
Yeah, they really give it to you. They really give it to you.
Wait, play it out because I'm lost.
So when yeah, go ahead, DoctahReeka.
But so the discussion that Rhaenyra and Viserys have with the skull, which I did look up, that was apparently his dragon who died of old age and he never got another one, and so that's why it's kind of revered. And
How sweet.
anyway, the point is,
His wife like that.
connection one, the dagger.
The dagger.
Ooh.
Oh, I did see the dagger. Okay.
Wait,
So
what?
that-
Yeah.
dagger?
So the dagger
Tyrion's dagger.
Viserys have on his hip like all the time is the dagger that Arya uses to kill the Night King.
It's the dagger
Oh,
they try to
really?
use to kill
It's the dagger that
It's
starts
the
the whole
Valyrian
plot.
steel?
Bran.
Yes.
They try to use to kill
Oh.
Bran in the first season.
Right. This
Okay.
dagger, they say this is Tyrion's dagger, and therefore Tyrion tried to kill Bran.
Yeah, they
and-
declare war. Ned Stark, honorable man. Did not know how to play Game of Thrones. Did not know how to play the game. Was
Oh,
bad. at
he
the
knew
game.
how to play. He just knew that
Oof.
he thought there was a middle ground.
No, he was bad. He was bad at the game.
No, he wasn't good, but he thought there was a middle ground. There's no middle ground.
Yeah, thus he's bad at the game. He was bad at the Game of Thrones.
You
Game of
misjudged.
Thrones,
You
you
misjudged
either
there was a
win
middle ground.
or you die. Like
He
He
figured it
died.
out. He figured out the mystery.
No,
I
he
guess
figured
John
out the
is-
mystery.
Too late.
I guess
Too
John Aaron
late.
figured out the mystery too, and he ate it as well.
Not good. Not good at the Game of Thrones.
So the
So yeah, the
dagger.
dagger is the first part. One, I thought the dagger felt like a nice little nudge. You know, it felt like there was a bunch of callbacks. Like once I heard Baratheon, I was like, oh, nice. Oh, the dagger. Kind of like the gold cloak that you were saying. And then came the next part. DoctahReeka, take it away.
which I believe we may have listened to the same podcast, and they had confirmed that this is not in the lore, is that the Targaryens had one of their ancestors had a dream about the Long Night, and so it's been passed on to each of the different heads anytime that someone's ascended the throne about the fact that this exists. However, as a result of their imminent demise in a couple hundred, or in like 100+ years, it was never passed on, which is why no one really knew about it, or it was lost in the shuffle, or maybe it had something to do with the impact on future Targaryens. Regardless, it has been known and has been passed on, but it's only passed on to those who are heirs, or those who eventually ascend the throne.
So it's like a prophecy,
that's not part of the lore.
So apparently it's not part of the lore.
Not part of
Aegon the Conqueror's lore.
What's the book called?
The Song of
Fire
Ice
and Blood.
Fire.
Fire and Blood. It's not in Fire and Blood, but George R.R. Martin has been like heavily involved with this show. So it's like, you know, maybe it's been like meandering in his mind somewhere. He just never put it down on paper, as I think a lot of his stories
well, I mean,
to be.
It would make sense as far as, you know, what happens in the original Game of Thrones. There was no one to pass it down to, because the Mad King, you know, was killed. But also, of course, the Mad King would know. And remember, there's the whole thing about him telling, burn them all.
Oh my God.
I mean, we don't have to get into it deep, but I did I did
too on the nose.
Yeah, I did think it was like a little too on the nose. It was like a Targaryen must be the one to sit on the throne and unite the Seven Kingdoms against this thing. And then, of course, as a viewer, we know that doesn't happen.
I feel like I feel like I don't necessarily like that, just because Aegon the Conqueror is like it's basically inspired from William the Conqueror, who like was from Normandy and united the British Isles, or really just Britain, into one faction, and that's where like British history begins. I took a class on like multiple classes on British history, so I'm like connecting everything in my head. But this just seems like, because in the books it's more that Rhaegar has that dream and that prophecy of like, oh, I need to become either I need to become the prince who was promised, or my children will become the prince who was promised. Like it's from my, like either one of like the heir of my father. I think that's what they're trying to sneak in, because they did not touch on that in the original show. So maybe they're just trying to touch on it with Aegon to make it like, how do I say, to make some element of it canon in the show canon versus like the book canon.
I mean, I'll take it, because if George R.R. Martin is like kind of, you know, guiding this writing, I guess I'm okay with it. However, I do kind of agree with that too, as far as just trying to make it more, you know, connected and whatnot. Yeah,
that's kind of what I was getting, you know, where it felt like the dagger was like a nice nudge, being like, hey, you like Game of Thrones, right? And sort of like the music too. A lot of the music felt like kind of like not quite the same melody of the original.
No, the themes are weaved in there.
Yeah,
like you can hear the themes. Yeah,
it felt like a lot of like that kind of nudging, but then like the White Walker we've always known about them, I was like, that felt like I got ran over. I was just like, wow, that's a lot.
And then they said, oh, and then it's called the Song of Ice and Fire. I was like, wait,
lost it. I was like,
yeah, I was like,
at the beginning of the show, they say the only each other can topple the house of the dragon, and I was like, roll credits. And then at the end they said a Song of Ice and Fire. I'm like, double roll credits.
What if the show ended there? What would you do, Grandmaster? What would you do?
I guess I wouldn't.
That was it.
I wouldn't watch it because it was over.
That's it.
All right, it's over. What would I do? I move on to a new show.
The thing is, my favorite character in all of Game of Thrones is, of course,
Brand the Broken.
Sam. I can't remember his full name.
Sam. Sam Tarly.
Samwise?
Sam Tarly.
Samwise.
I always want to call him Samwise.
No, his name's not Samuel. I think it's just
It's
Sam.
not
I mean,
Tarly.
Based on
Sam
Samwise.
also the best character in Lord of the Rings, so Sams have something going for them. Anyways, he's the one who calls it A Song of Ice and Fire. He's the one who's like,
Because he's
takes,
writing
like,
the book.
he's writing the book, and then he's like, I'm gonna call it A Song of Ice and Fire. And now they're just
But-
like, that means nothing because
It should have always been called A Song of Ice and Fire.
It was prophesized that this would be, and you know what? They don't even touch on the Azor Ahai prophecy. That would have been the perfect place to put Azor Ahai.
We
in,
might
like,
get a
Which-
we will get a
which one
red
is that?
priest. That's
Which
what the
one is
red
Azor Ahai
priest
is the basically, yeah. He's basically like him and the prince who were promised are like kind of like the same thing, but basically
we could get that if we get any red priests.
if we do, but
Okay.
like there was just a lot more Targaryen involvement with the prophecy of Azor Ahai, in the books at least, than there was with this whole conundrum of A Song of Ice and Fire. But I guess I'm being nitpicky. I'll see where this takes us.
I've heard this. George R. R. Martin's been on his kind of like interview tour, and he's been talking to a lot of people. And I guess he's been saying that somehow this TV show is going to tie into the ending of A Song of Ice and Fire. I don't know in what capacity. I don't know if there's going to be like some foreshadowing he's doing in this show that kind of like, hints at what's going to happen in his final books. But I guess like he's been like mentioning that in a couple of the interviews he's been doing, almost as a way to like kind of promote both, hey, watch the show, this is going to matter for like my ending of A Song of Ice and Fire,
Whenever that may
Ending.
be.
Yeah, correct.
Never. Just
what does that
accept
do
it.
for us,
It's
George?
never happening.
well,
Yeah.
I don't know, hopefully with Elden Ring and this show now launching, he has a little more time
No,
on his hands.
No.
Hopefully he
Mm-mm.
doesn't take on any other gigantic, massive projects
Had
in the
10
meantime.
years.
He works on
10
getting those books.
years.
But what
done.
do you call it? But I was like hearing this I just had to come to terms with, like, with my feelings of Berserk. Just very quickly, this may never be finished, and I just
It's
have
not.
to be okay with that.
It's
Because
not, right.
he's very much an Oda when it comes to timelines, except Oda's actually finishing his work. He's just like, I've been liking writing so much other stuff, but people keep hounding me on Winds of Winter.
Duh.
He's
It's
not
like,
getting any younger.
Why
He's-
are people so preoccupied with Wings of Song? Was it Wings of Winter? Wings of Winter.
Winds of Winter. Yeah, and it's just like he kind of was like, I'm kind of getting tired of people asking me about Winds of Winter. I'm enjoying what I'm writing right now. He's like, I'm enjoying what I'm writing right now. As a writer, I should just write what I want. I have a feeling he doesn't want to continue the series because of the adaptation, of the HBO adaptation.
I get that. And so
My man is
putting,
73 years old. I mean, he
he's
ain't
putting
gonna get
all
any
his
younger.
efforts into the prequel and the mythos versus finishing the series. I get it. Well, goodness, we'll see how much pull he has here in future episodes. To wrap things up, I think I'll be tuning in. I like where we're heading. I'm very curious to see what's going on next for Rhaenyra and her comeuppance to the crown. Game of Thrones is back. I think it's been, I don't know. I just feel out of all the shows I've been watching as of late, this one has me high key invested. And maybe it's because the weekly format and I have to tune in and whatnot, but I don't know. I missed the Game of Thrones storytelling, but those are my final thoughts. Y'all, are you tuning in next week? Prime time,
Yeah.
9:00?
Yeah, for sure. This was low on my totem pole in terms of like keeping up with it before watching the premiere episode. I felt like it did everything it needed to do, and I was going in with a very low bar. I kind of just watched it out of obligation because it was Game of Thrones, and I was like, well, let me just watch the first episode and see how it goes. But now I kind of want to watch the rest. I'm hoping it's not just a really great a series premiere and then it just tanks right after that. I hope not. That's my one fear. Like, I feel like if we get a strong episode 2, I think we're safe. I think we're safe. I think at that point, it's like, okay, they clearly just didn't put all their eggs into episode 1. They have this planned out. You're going to be invested each week. You're going to be having these type of conversations every week. So I think because of that, I'll be tuning in weekly. Rings of Power has to find a way to fit in, I guess, now.
Yeah, similar to Dr. Jace. I like ranked like what I was most excited for in this like next wave of fantasy and sci-fi shows, which I said were House of the Dragon, Rings of Power, and Andor. Put House of the Dragon at the bottom, you know? I think like I was just kind of like, you know, Rings of Power seems to be like, it's been so long since we've had like good Lord of the Rings. And I don't know, those trailers for Andor are doing so much for me. And I was just kind of like, all right, it'll be interesting. I'll tune in. I'll give it a shot. And I think it really reminded me what I loved about Game of Thrones. And more than anything, it just felt like this show knows what other people love about Game of Thrones. I felt like when I was watching season 7, this is the last time I'll bring it up, in that episode where everybody teams up, it's like they like do like the Avengers episode where just like a bunch of your fan favorite characters just show up at the wall to like go north and whatever.
Grandmaster,
I was just
who
like,
love that scene.
I love that scene.
I
the bro prediction.
Consume.
absolutely hated it. I was just like, this isn't Game of Thrones. You guys don't know what it is. You guys have completely lost the plot. This is like, this would never happen in season 2, 3, 4.
Never,
you know, the peak of Game of Thrones. It would never happen. And it like, George R. R. Martin would have never wrote that. And I was just so disappointed, so mad at the storytelling. And it just feels like this gets back to what it was, you know, with like people sitting around a table talking. A lot of like deception, a lot of like, you don't know where people stand on anything. And, you know, I think those, to be honest, like those push Bran out of the tower, the Stannis sacrificing his daughter moments that are just like, leave you just being like, wow, I never want to watch that scene again. Thank you, Game of Thrones. They're doing it. So I'm kind of like, I'm here for it. I'm excited for this season. I'm really interested to see what Rings of Power is going to be about, but I think it's really going to be a close battle, a lot closer than I think I thought 2 days ago. So.
Well said, Nino. DoctahReeka, any final thoughts?
I've seen the Star Wars movies and I've seen the Lord of the Rings movies, but I'm not very invested in anything else that they have going on. I frankly don't understand what else they have going on. So this was all I had in terms of like fantasy offerings. Maybe I'll get around to some of those other shows at some point in my life. But I also came in with very low expectations. I watched, I think, a trailer or two, and I knew I'd check out the first episode just to see, you know, what would happen. Was pleasantly surprised, and similar to what HooperTV just shared, I think a lot of the things I really appreciated about the first series was present. The good dialogue and the back and forth between characters and the underhandedness, and, you know, some folks that you maybe want to cheer on, but also it feels like everybody's kind of in a gray area, so you anticipate that something may happen to change that stance. But I think that's what makes the show fun in the first place is, you know, I had my favorites, but they also did some stuff that I was kind of questioning in the first series. So I look forward to being able to do that again and have kind of dialogue and debate with folks who are also watching. I think that community element we talked about at the very start is something I really just appreciate about pop culture moments, and whether it be TV shows or movies or right now music with Beyonce, like I just like being able to collect together and people are all watching or listening to the same thing but getting something different from it, and that's what makes it fun. So I'm looking for the rest of the season.
Well said. Well said. Well, folks, that was great. Listen, everybody tuning in to the Yonkō Table. Thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in to your local podcast stations. Thank you for following us on all social media, including Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. And if you want to see our lovely faces during these conversations, of course, check us out on YouTube. And if you want to join our discourse, please join our Patreon and join our Discord. But hey, that's it on episode 1 of House of the Dragon. I'm your host, Grandmaster Hoop, fellow Yonkō, DrJaceAttorney, Supernovas, Nino Desposato, DoctahReeka, and Admiral HooperTV. We had a lot to say. I hope y'all listen. And again, we'll see y'all next week for episode 2 of House of the Dragon. Y'all take care.